So, Gus, why don't you start off by telling me a bit about you? So, what's your name, your age, and just like a few fun facts about you?
Well, yeah, I'm Gus. I'm 29. Um, I've I moved to America back in 2013 for school, and I finished school, and I'm working now in New York. Live out in New Jersey, um, and obviously these are the days of coronavirus, so it's a crazy situation for everyone. I'm working from home, working, like using the internet to. I don't know. That sounds really dumb. Everyone's using the internet. Can you edit that out?
No, you're totally fine. I think
Okay.
a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So, why don't you tell me a bit about like what long-term and short-term challenges you've been going through or you've been facing before you even came to Adapt? And then a little bit about how bad it had gotten and like what kind of a feelings were associated with those challenges.
So I guess the main thing that I was complaining about when I started was that I felt like I was just really wonky. Like I was sort of this was like my natural shoulder position, and nothing I could do could seem to make this feel more normal. And I also had a similar thing going on with my neck. I mean, it's maybe it's you can still it's still slightly there, but my neck used to be kind of like this as well, and like nothing I could do could help sort of bring it over. It would be very tense here and kind of thick and bunched up, and then lower here. So yeah, that's what I was mainly complaining about. Um, I'd also had some lower back soreness, but I didn't think it was related. And that was something which kind of came and went. Sometimes it was pretty bad, sometimes it didn't really bother me, but in the months leading up to my deciding to start physical therapy, it started getting a lot worse. I was having uh, i was having this issue where basically every night I'd be lying on my back, and then I'd asleep, and then I'd wake up just incredibly uncomfortable with lower back soreness. So I would just roll onto my side, and then I'd feel much better. I'd fall back to sleep, staying in that position on my side, and then I'd wake up, I don't know, a couple of hours later, again having completely stiffened up. So I'd roll back onto my back, and it would just be flip flopping like this. And, you know, that wasn't much fun. So I decided to do something about it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me that this stuff had been going on for you for so long now. Tell me a little bit about that. All the things that you had tried in the past, things that maybe didn't pan out the way you were hoping to, in terms of different things that you had done for yourself.
Yeah. So I had this. I mean, it's difficult to remember really accurately, but overall, I had the impression that I've basically had these kind of issues with my wonkiness since I was a kid, like since I was 9 or 10 or something like that. Um, One day I just woke up having been to some party at a ball park or whatever. I woke up just like with my shoulder glued to my ear, and everyone at school was laughing at me, but it really hurt. And then I guess it gradually went away, but I never really returned to a properly natural position. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it took me a while to really start noticing that there was a problem with it. It just became my new normal. I would have people like my mum, for example, constantly tell me, "Oh, why can't you stand straight?" But I just thought it was her being fussy. But then I guess maybe a few years ago, mid 20s, is when I started sort of thinking that it's uh, it's really an issue. But I would try stretching. I've always been like a pretty active person. Used to play rugby all through university and everything like that. But like no amount of you know physical strengthening or stretching that I did could fix this problem.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So, what ultimately, in the months leading up to contacting Adapt, what ultimately made you think, I've got to get this fixed right now? I can't live like this anymore.
It was the sleeping. Yeah. It was the back pain waking me up every couple of hours every night consistently. Yeah.
Yeah. And emotionally, that must have been tough.
Yeah.
It's draining.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so what has your journey been like since starting telehealth physical therapy with Adapt? And if you were to describe it to like a family member, say your mom, like what would you say to explain the process that you've gone through so far?
Well, the first thing that kind of surprised me, but turns out to have been genius, is that Pyle realized that it wasn't a problem with my neck or shoulders or back even per se, but with my hips. It was the first thing she said when she saw me. And so what she explained was that like I had this weird thing going on in my hips where they're kind of tilted forward and also like twisted around slightly to the side. And that's actually pretty common. And if it happens to you and that's just your natural position, then it ends up putting a load of strain on your lower back and mid back because your hips are like, well, they're not supporting you the way they're supposed to be. So different parts of your body have to work to do that. And then everything just sort of builds up from there and ends up just kind of messing everything up above the hips. So yeah, she got me to work with to start off just with some really simple but shockingly difficult uh, like hip mobility exercises. Nothing dynamic or anything like that to start with, just mostly like stretches and just different positions, which at the time seemed so weird and uncomfortable, but now have effectively become second nature to me. So now I feel like my uh, at least even after like the first couple of weeks, I was starting to feel like my hips were just naturally going into a completely different position, and I was kind of it was really eye-opening actually to see how I finally understood the way I had been standing with respect to my hips was so weird. I never cottoned onto that before, but afterwards I was like, what? This just feels so much better. And she's absolutely right. It was true that pretty quickly after I got that new basic posture going, I started to feel so much relief in my back. And even without really working on it, I just started to feel straighter in my shoulders and neck as well. So that was how it started out to begin with. And of course, it was all with telehealth, which I was a bit worried about to begin with because I don't I don't really regard myself as someone who's naturally like that quick on understanding like body movements when someone else explains it to you. You know, I feel like some people just really get it. If you say, rotate your something or other, and they say, yeah, I know what you mean, and I say, no, what are you talking about? Rotate do I even have that? If I did, I certainly wouldn't know how to rotate it. So yeah, I don't feel like I'm like naturally that gifted in understanding intuitively the way my body works. But so I was a bit worried about it being telehealth, but PALs are very good at explaining and helping you like get to that understanding by yourself. Well, not completely by yourself, but without someone there physically to actually like position you and whatnot. So yeah, it was really no issue for me. I there hasn't been a single exercise or movement that I wasn't able to understand with some careful explanation, and I feel like I made loads of progress. So
Good. I'm so happy to hear it.
yeah.
And you hear it a lot. So I'm happy that you mentioned that. So if you had to give me like in your own words, just how these exercises have been just so different than the things that you thought you needed in the beginning, or the things that you had tried in the beginning, the types of stretches you were doing, strengthening exercises. What do you think was so missing from what you're now doing and what you're now focusing on versus what you had been doing?
Well, I think there's several aspects to that actually. One is obviously what I've already mentioned, which is that I never thought about targeting the hips. But it's not just, I don't want to like make it all about the hips, because it isn't. Paul's given me lots of exercises to do with other things as well. But um, I'd say like a general thing is that there's so much uh, there are so many exercises which just target such a wide range of areas of the body, which I never thought could be relevant to these issues. You know, from my perspective, I was just like, okay, my lower back hurts and my neck is sore. So I'm going to stretch my neck and stretch my lower back and strengthen my neck and strengthen my lower back, and then I'll be fine. Actually, my neck and my lower back were really strong already because I was loading all my weight through them, right? So it wasn't a lack of strength that was the problem. It was just overloading on them and underloading on my other things. So I guess, yeah, that was a big thing for me, realizing that where you feel the pain is not necessarily the part that you need to most work on.
Great, I love it.
Yeah,
You nailed it.
yeah.
Okay, good. So, so since starting therapy, what accomplishment would you say you're most proud of? What is it that you would say, like, if somebody asked you about your program and your body now, what would you say you feel most accomplished about?
Well, I guess one thing that immediately leaps to mind, we have an indoor cycling machine, which has been great for this period. Obviously, we've been able to get some good exercise in, and I actually kind of shocked myself after starting this physical therapy. I was able to quite dramatically increase my power output, my max power output. I went from like a 500 to an 8 or even 900 watts, like 5 second max power output.
That's huge.
And yeah, it is huge, and it's just because when you're, you know, my hips were completely rigid before, and so the only way I really had to actually transfer power was just through my legs, through my quads, um, and you know, other leg muscles, but I guess mainly quads. Uh, but you know, now that my hips are loose, for one thing, I can actually use my hips themselves to push. You know, like imagine these are my hips; they're actually going like this on the saddle and actually, you know, helping to piston down. But it's not only that; it's also because like the way they were rolled forward, they were kind of locking out
Mhm.
the ability to use my leg as well. Now that they're more flexible, I can bring more leg muscles into bear. It's not only my quads, but also my hamstrings that I'm able to like pull with on the up more than I could before. So yeah, it like hip mobility has been a huge advantage for cycling.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And are you back to sleeping again?
Yeah, I haven't had the back stiffness during the night anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
good.
generally it's unbroken sleep now. If it's broken, it's not because of my body. Yeah.
Good. Okay, cool. So, what would you say to someone who's considering telehealth with the adapt, but they're not quite sure, they're on the fence, or they're not sure if it would actually pay off in the end?
I'd say go for it. Yeah. I mean, I have no regrets about it. Like I said, I was nervous. I wasn't sure that it was going to work. I'd met Pyle and I really liked her, but I just didn't know whether telehealth itself could really work out for me. As I already mentioned, I didn't think I was the sort of person who would like naturally be able to understand over a video like this what was going on. But I've had absolutely no issues whatsoever. And one advantage from the current coronavirus situation has been that I don't commute anymore, so I'm at home all day. So I've got just more space in my day to to have my sessions and then to do my exercises. So it's actually been it's been for me probably the the best opportunity I've had actually to do something like this. You know, so I just think if you're yeah if you're on the fence, if you need to fix something with your body, but you're on the fence just because you're nervous about telehealth working, then don't be. Now is a great opportunity where you've got more time and more flexibility to actually do it, and this whole remote videoing stuff is a complete non-issue. Yeah.
I love it. I'm so happy you're doing well, Gus. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right, this has been great. Thanks, Gus. So, all right, we can end the recording here, but that was